So, good afternoon. My name is Oscar Pedro Musabai, and I'm a reporter for the South Florida Business Journal. And I want to welcome you to the Business Journal's Tweetup series. Today, we are fortunate enough to be able to talk with Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Alvarez. He is one of our most important leaders at a time when our community, like much of the country, is struggling with lots of complex financial issues. He is facing an election in March as a result of a controversial budget, and he is here to answer your questions about the budget and his tenure overall. First, a few words about him. He enjoys boxing, football, working out, and reading. He's a native of Cuba who has been a strong supporter of planned growth and has fought to protect the urban development boundary. He revived the Port Tunnel project, lobbying to keep millions, which will produce hundreds of jobs. He fought for and passed a multi-billion-dollar package of projects that included the $600 million Marlins Stadium, another job generator. He also pushed for a new Metro Rail expansion, the first in 2 decades, and created a 50-year park and open space master plan. The Marlins project has been the subject of scrutiny because of the county's role in funding the bulk of the project. So, first off, can you talk about the budget and what you are most proud of?
Well, like you said, Oscar, the budget was quite controversial because of the times that we are facing. But quite frankly, the options that I had, neither one of them were good, and I made a decision. I made a decision to recommend a budget that preserved vital services to our community, and quite frankly, 60% of the people that own properties in Miami-Dade County will not see a tax increase. So it wasn't an easy year. Last year we had a flat budget, and I thought that we could have another flat budget. And that's what my directions were to the county manager and to the budget director. And that's exactly what they did. They presented me with a flat budget. And when they did, quite frankly, I couldn't, in all good conscience, recommend that to the county commission, which ultimately approves the budget. I don't have a vote in the final budget. But I couldn't recommend it because what it would mean, this would be the 4th year where we would have to be filling a budget gap. Mm-hmm. Going back 4 years, we had to fill over $200 million. 3 years, over $200 million. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, it was about 420. And last year, it was a $440 million budget gap. So if you add those 4 years, you'll see that over the last 4 years, we've had to fill a budget gap of over $1 billion. So what that means is that a lot of the vital services that people, quite frankly, need and demand would have suffered. And when I mentioned the departments that would have been greatly affected, a lot of people think that I'm just using scare tactics. But the fact of the matter is that the departments that would have been greatly affected are the departments that their budgets are highly dependent on property taxes, starting with the fire department, which gets, I'll say 90%. In the high 80th percentile of their budget is from property taxes from the fire district. They had an $80 million hole that they had to fill. The police department, 80 percentile property taxes. Parks, almost 90% property taxes. Transit, property taxes. And something that a lot of people tend to forget is that Miami-Dade County contributes approximately $30 million a year. And that's been reduced from a high of 40 to social services. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you know, the county shouldn't be in the business of providing social services. Mm-hmm. But quite frankly, we are like the safety net. Because when federal programs are being cut, when state programs are being cut, and citizens in our community are facing extremely tough times, it's money that they get from the county that keeps the Little Havana activity centers, Los Comedores opened, and programs for the elderly, and programs for the juveniles, and programs such as Farm Share, which feeds people that can't afford groceries, and La Liga contra el Cáncer, which treats people that have cancer that don't have insurance, and those departments and those programs would have been greatly impacted. And like I've told people, when I told them that I couldn't recommend that budget, I was told by a lot of folks that if you do anything that raises any sort of tax, whether you call that a rollback or whether you call it, whatever you call it, the reality is that Miami-Dade County received $50 million less in property taxes this year than last year.
Right.
But if you do anything to adjust the millage rate where some people are going to see their taxes increase, you're going to be facing a recall.
Right.
So I knew that. And I still recommended it because, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, and the citizens will tell me if I was wrong or not, people would not accept the alternatives, the cuts. People would not accept fire stations being closed down. People would not accept a delay in response time with fire and police. People would not accept the closing down of pools and parks, of parks being closed, of programs that are near and dear to their heart not receiving funding. And the reason why I'm telling you that I'm not speculating is because I get those phone calls.
Right.
And it's very easy for people to say, lay people off, but they don't get the phone calls.
Right.
And what I can tell you firsthand is that you could have the most conservative person, a Tea Party person, philosophically. And then you make a decision that would impact a family member. And I can guarantee you that that person will call you.
Right.
And that person will say, you have to save this person. And then you explain the reality of life and says, yeah, but you need to do something, and please try to do something. So the point I'm trying to make is philosophically, we can talk about laying off thousands of people. The reality is that you're having a severe impact on families, and that it's not as easy as people think that it is, even when you're having to deal with ultra-conservative types. When it hits home, then it's my problem. It's not somebody else's problem. So
Well, let's talk about